Hello, you're listening to Mairead Vaughan on the Being Brilliant podcast. I am a celebrant and I create and deliver ceremonies for weddings, funerals, and all sorts of milestone moments. I am fascinated by people and what makes them who they are. My guest today has overcome a lot of adversity in her life, and I was captured by her new autobiography, The Hidden World of a Foster Girl. Sadie Harper, it's lovely to have you here with me today, and thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast.
Hi Mairead, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you. So Sadie, we're going to talk about your new book, and I have to say I was riveted by it from the word go, and I'm normally a slow reader, but I was gripped from the very beginning. It's really well written. But before we get into that, for anybody listening that's not sure, people are very familiar with the term adoption, but maybe not so much with fostering. In Ireland, can you explain the difference between fostering and adoption?
Yeah, so fostering is when, for whatever reason, birth parents aren't able to look after their children. And then, Mairead, that could be for like different reasons. It could be for medical reasons as well, like maybe the child has medical issues that say the birth parents mightn't be able to at this time be able to bring the child to the hospital appointment. There's loads of different things, but it can also be if there's a breakdown in the birth family where the children, there might be like a care order by court where the children might be removed from that family for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And then they will go to emergency foster care, and then they will look for foster parents for those children. So you also have like a short-term foster placement, so that could just be like a few weeks, a few months, and then long-term fostering I think is usually done by like a court order, and legally will say like that the child will stay with that foster family if all going well, maybe up to the age of 18, or it could be up for renewal. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, I suppose, with fostering, the difference between fostering and adopting, I suppose, would be the birth parents would still have a lot of rights to the child. The social workers would probably be the children's legal guardians. So I suppose the foster parents, I suppose a lot of people would say they do all the groundwork, and then they would say if the child is going on a school tour or needs anything legal, they contact the social workers, and the social workers will ask the birth parents to sign the sorry, I'm just getting a brain freeze here.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, to sign the documents and stuff.
Yeah, to authorise that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very different to adoption.
Yeah. Will fostering ever go from a foster situation to an adoption situation?
Yeah, I think it does. But I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't know, I'm no expert, so I wouldn't really know too much, but I do think it can if the children are with the foster family for a long period of time. I think they can apply for adoption. But I don't know if it's as easy as it is in other countries.
Yeah, it really depends on a situation, doesn't it? But at the moment in Ireland, the rights of the birth parents are very much protected. So you're fostering somebody else's child. They have the legal right. The state has the legal right to certain things. Yeah. And okay. Right.
And a lot of the time, some of the children do go back. So you're only really sometimes, just giving a child a safe place.
Yeah.
For a safe environment for a few months, few weeks, until the birth parents are able to take the child back.
Yeah, and I'm sure there must be a variety of situations where a temporary situation that a birth family just cannot, for various reasons, not look after the child at that time, but that doesn't mean that their circumstances could improve and change. So, yeah. So, as you know, early childhood can have a lasting impact on our lives. Now, your first start in life, you were born with your twin sister Kizzy. Who came out first, you or Kizzy, do you know?
So Kizzy came out first.
Yeah.
So we were 3 months premature.
Right.
My birth mother didn't know she was having twins, so I tell you, she got some surprise when she went into labour.
My gosh.
Now my twin sister says that she was sick of listening to me in the womb and she kicked me out. So that's what she tells everyone.
So you were born, but things were a bit difficult for your birth parents at the time.
Yeah.
So what happened immediately after your birth?
Well, so my birth family had 5 children. And then
before you came along.
Yeah, before we came along. And then my mum became pregnant. And then obviously the premature twins. So then my mum was going to have 7 children. When Kizzy was born, she had a heart problem. So she stayed in hospital longer. So then I went back to my birth family. And then for whatever reason, I think it just obviously got too much. You're talking 6 children under the age of about 10.
Yeah.
So I went to live with the nuns for a couple of weeks. And then Kizzy came home from the hospital to my birth family, and then I got reunited with Kizzy. And then I think things just got out of hand, and the social workers decided then they'd move us. So all 7 of us, we all went back to the nuns.
Yeah.
And then myself and actually my brother was about 12 at the time, and he said that the day that we all got removed, he said that he was in the car with us. And he remembers it, like he said, obviously went to the nuns, and then he said a few days after that, he said that we all went back into a car again, and he watched all his siblings being brought to different houses. And he said that myself and Kiz, then we went to a foster family, and he said when he said goodbye to us, he was told, there's nowhere for you. You're going into a children's home. And I remember him telling me, like, just the way it was said, like, he's a man now, and I remember he was saying just the way it was said, they just sort of looked at him and said, we've nowhere for you. You're going to a children's home.
And he was 7 years of age?
I don't know, I think he could have been about 12.
12,
at the time.
yeah. He must have been terrified.
No, he said he was. He said, like, it was just so surreal. He said, just going around seeing all your siblings and saying goodbye, and then being told, oh, there's nowhere for you. You know, he said it was really, really tough. And then me and my twin, we were only on like a temporary foster placement because it was Christmas time, and my mum and dad had already fostered another boy called Gary. They fostered him from Madonna House Children's Home. So when they got the call, they were just told, look, we have twins that need somewhere to stay, just temporary. Would you take them? So my mum and dad decided, yeah, we will. Now they had 2 foster children of their own, and then Gary, so there was 3, and then me and Kizzy 5. So when myself and Kizzy arrived, mum and dad were saying we were so cute because we were premature as well, so we were quite like small and that. And they had nowhere for us to sleep, so myself and Kizzy, we slept in drawers. And like, yeah, when my friends are messing, they'll say like, Kizzy and Sadie, get back into your drawers.
So how old were you when you arrived at?
About 9 months old, I'd say.
9. So you'd already moved around a lot at that point already. Yeah.
Yeah, but my mum and dad weren't aware. Like my foster parents didn't know about the moves, or they were told very little.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a huge difference between me and Kizzy, because Kizzy had spent like a good few months in the hospital, where I had gone to my birth parents and I'd gone to the nuns and then gone back and that. So I was quite withdrawn. So Kizzy was a lot more chirpier and that, and I was like, I wasn't meeting the milestones. There was a point where like the social workers had suggested to mum and dad because I used to put a tea towel over my head, so they used to say to mum and dad, feed her underneath the tea towel, because she doesn't like touch. And my mum and dad were like, oh, you know, they found that really, really hard to have to do that. But eventually, you know, mum and dad like took turns trying to give me physical contact and that. But yeah, and then eventually I kind of came out of it.
Do you know if that process took a long time before you started?
Well, my foster parents say it was at least like 2.5 before I really came out of myself.
Right, yeah.
My dad says that one morning in the middle of the night, it was in the middle of the night, he heard banging like a cot, like banging, and so he woke up to that, and he was thinking, what is that? So he went to come in to me, and as he was coming in the door, he could hear la 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 la, me singing, and he said he came in anyway, and I put my arms out. I went, Dada.
Oh, fantastic. So that was, the spell had been broken, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you must have felt most comfortable with Kizzy, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like Mum said, me and Kizzy, like we were, we loved each other. You could see the love and, and that. But as she said herself, I was very withdrawn in that. But we were two very different children. But like if she put us together, like you'd see, we would like cling fingers together and stuff.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you started school?
I think I was about like maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But I know we went to play school first.
Okay.
I don't know much about play school.
You don't remember much?
No, not really. And like my foster parents never really said too much about it. I think it was more just when I went to, like, back then it was Kinder A and Kinder B.
Yeah.
I think that would be your junior infants and senior infants. That was when like I really struggled, and I suppose when the school could see obviously that I definitely wasn't meeting the needs of what the other children were at.
Yeah.
And I couldn't concentrate. I would like get up and jumping on tables and singing. I used to sing like, Annie, are you alright? You've been hit by smooth criminal. And like the teacher would be up at the desk, like, and then I'd be like, woo, woo. Then they'd be like, sit down. I'd be like, hang on, and I'd do my twirl.
You were hyper and excitable.
Very hyper,
yeah. And of course, and so reading and writing was quite difficult then, was it? Yeah. Did you, do you remember how you felt when you were in class and trying to do the lessons and the exercises?
Yeah, because I think I always kind of felt like the teacher was trying to trick me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember feeling that feeling, and that feeling I would only be like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling that because like it was very clear, I'd say, that I wasn't able to spell and I wasn't able to read to the same standard of the other children.
Yeah.
And if I was writing, like the teachers would be quite blunt, we can't read your writing. And they would, the other way they'd pass your spellings to the next person beside you to correct them.
Yeah.
And then straight away it'd be, I can't read that, miss, I can't read that. Or I always kind of felt like the teachers knew that children couldn't read my writing because they couldn't read it. And if they'd asked me, like, how do you spell this? They knew I wouldn't have been able to. So I sort of felt set up a lot of the time.
Okay.
And then I get really, like, angry and get upset, and I feel like everyone's against me.
So when it became apparent that you were behind the other kids in reading and writing, they didn't actually do anything to get to the bottom of it, to figure out why, to give you extra attention, extra help. I just
felt like they kind of nitpicked.
Yeah.
Now, like, there would have been, like, say, like 1 or 2 teachers, that would be lovely. Like, we did get one really nice teacher, and she was just so kind, and, like, she knew I was struggling, and she'd do her best to try and help.
Yeah.
But I don't ever remember it being, like, continuous, like, where I feel like maybe she was, like, a sport teacher or something, but I don't know. Because I don't feel like she was, like, in the classroom all the time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, if she was walking past the corridor and I was outside, she'd be really nice, like, you okay, how are you? And, like, say if she saw a teacher shouting at me, she would come over and say, like, everything okay? And I remember in that particular school, the headmaster was a woman, and she was actually quite nice. And I could see, well, she came across to me quite nice. She could see that I was struggling. And sometimes they'd just say, oh, she got a spelling right, let's go in next door and we'll give you a sticker. So there was a little bit of
she praised you when you did well, when you were able to do stuff. Yeah. I
think because it was like a private school, and I suppose the other children, I wasn't private school material. So they obviously didn't really want me in that school, so they suggested to Mum and Dad, like, this isn't working, that she needs to find another school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like, from the two of us speaking separately, and you are now an SNA in a school, there's this very, very strong idea that you are probably dyslexic.
Dyslexic, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think ADHD definitely as well.
ADHD. And to this day, you have never been put forward for an assessment.
No.
Was that something that they knew about back then? But they certainly, you know, to this day, you've never had an assessment. Were they putting other children forward for those assessments back in are we talking about the 80s?
Yes, it was 80s, 90s. I don't really know, because I think, was it back then, maybe they didn't label people as much as they do now. But I know I went to a special needs school.
Yeah.
And in that special needs school, there was a dyslexic class, and I did go into that class, like just like the remedial classes and stuff, and that did help.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I did get like assessments and stuff. And my mum was told that I was hyperactive and all of this stuff, but they never like put any kind of label. But there was talk of being dyslexic.
Yeah.
And then when I left that school, because my mum was saying, like, where is she going to go now? She's going to go into like a mainstream school after doing so well in the special needs school, like getting 3-4 years there, and then having to go into like first year in a mainstream school. And when I went into the first year, like, I just was not able. I was behind.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of assessments then. Psychologists saw me. But they never, like, they never actually diagnosed me with anything. All they said is that I was low intelligent, concentration was poor. I was just labelled. Just really low IQ and things like that.
So even though the term dyslexia was bandied around and referred to, you might, as a possibility, did they explain to you what dyslexia was and what it meant? That's unbelievable, because, I mean, how did that affect your self-esteem when you're struggling like that, but you've not been given a reason why you're struggling? Just like low. Like, I think when I got my birth files, Mairead, and to read my birth files and to read stuff that was written, it was really shocking. It was really upsetting, like, because they were saying, a lot of it was actually said that I was actually looking for help, and I did want the help. That I was, they were like, the school reports were saying she is a lovely girl, but she's getting just very distracted. She's looking for like attention all the time, asking silly questions. Reading and writing is below average. Mainstream schooling isn't the right place for Sadie. But they never give any reason. They're just saying like low IQ all the time. It was kind of down to that, like, you know. And there was another word that I read as well, that my behaviour was aberrant. And that's quite a strong word, aberrant. I mean, that's pretty strong. Yeah. And as you continued into secondary school then, and you became a teenager, you still hadn't got any help. I mean, things must have got worse then for you. Yeah. Oh, no, it did. So first year, I managed to get through first year, just about skin of my teeth. Then the beginning of second year, my behaviour again, like, I spent a lot of the time outside the classroom door, and then they just expelled me then. Like, there had been, I think, suspended then expelled. Social workers were involved, psychologist was involved, and they all said that the school I was in, private school again, wasn't the school for me. So basically, my mum got a referral to go to this school. So my mum went down to a school in Dublin, and when she went in to have a look at the school, and now I was about 14 at the time, right? About 13, let me just think now, maybe 13 and a half or so. And they said to my mum, so how handicapped is your daughter? My gosh. Yeah. And my mum said, excuse me, what? And she says, oh, we were just told, and because my mum was like, my daughter is not handicapped. And they were like, but we were told by the headmaster your daughter was severely handicapped. My mother was absolutely livid. She was so angry, my mum, that she actually fell down the stairs in the school. She was so annoyed, yeah. So, I take it she didn't put you into that school? No. And I told her I wasn't going anyway, the fact that she made a show of me and fell down the stairs. Typical teenager. I was like, I'm not going to that school now, I'll keep falling down the stairs. Good for you. So, where did you go then? So, I had to take a year out.
So I was homeschooled.
Oh gosh, that mustn't have been much fun.
No.
How did you feel? You're 14. You're being homeschooled on your own at home. How did you feel about yourself, about life?
Oh, I felt like a misfit. I felt alone, and I always felt like I was the problem. So basically, I turned everything in on myself, and I always felt like I deserved to be punished, and like that's what like self-harming. I was self-harming, and I started at the age of 12. And I get so angry at myself, pull my hair, pinch myself, and I'd be thinking like, this is all your fault. And I don't think I ever really thought like, oh, this could be ADHD, or this could be like, I know I've never been properly assessed, but I know I'm dyspraxic because my balance is quite bad. Even when I'm eating, sometimes I can miss my mouth. I need a bib sometimes, but like my coordination, there's so much where I know now from being in SNA, like, and now I think that's why I'm not happier in myself, because I know that it's not my fault. But as a child, you don't have that mentality. You don't have that to think, this isn't your fault. Like, this is a learning difficulty. But I felt like nobody understood me. And like, especially in school, my age, because I felt like I was trying.
Yeah.
And I remember like trying to write these, I always liked poetry. And I remember like trying to write these stories or these poems. And I was like putting loads in them thinking, this is deadly. Like, look at your one. Like, I thought I was like great.
Yeah.
And then like the teacher just picking it up and going, what is this?
Yeah. Because your spelling maybe wasn't great, and she was just maybe the grammar or...
Absolutely, like, and your heart is just like, and I just felt like, why would I try? Why would you try, like, if you're going to, like, make me feel like that? And I think that's a massive thing with children in schools, I think, is if you're treated like that, why would the child want to do that, put themselves out like that, to be humiliated in front of others? And it's awful, like, to be in that situation where you're singled out.
Yes.
And of course you're going to kick off, because I would have probably picked up then and throw a chair across the classroom, but it also took the distraction off me.
Yeah.
Where obviously I'm still going to be the bold child anyway.
Yeah.
And get sent out of the classroom, but it still just took when the teacher was like, why can't I read that, or why can't it, but at least if you pick up that chair, that'll stop from that.
Okay, so it'll detract from the fact that you can't do the exercise and you don't understand the homework. You're just a bold child. You'd rather they concentrate on the fact that you're disrupting the classroom. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, when I look back on it and try to make sense of it.
That makes sense to me. It's like, for your self-esteem, you'd rather be the wild child than the stupid child in the class. Yeah, I understand that. And actually, dyspraxia is one of those things that goes with a lot of dyslexia. Sometimes it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And dyscalculia is another one as well, which makes it hard to do numbers and figure maths and that kind of thing. Yeah. So this led to terrible behaviour problems. No wonder it led to self-harming. It led to being expelled. It led to terrible emotional and psychological problems. And you told me before, in all this time, as part of the foster care system in Ireland at the time, we're talking the 80s and 90s, throughout all of this, nobody ever said, let's send Sadie to a psychologist, send you for counselling. Did they ever send you for counselling?
No, they definitely sent me to a psychologist. But he never, as I said, diagnosed me with anything. Like,
how many times did you go to him?
I don't really know. I know I had a few anyway.
Yeah.
I said to Mum there recently, my foster mum, and she was like, oh, back then I suppose they probably didn't like labelling children. But then she also told me that she thinks, and so does my foster dad think, that I could have ended up in an institution. Yeah. Because they were told, like, they were in denial. Say, like, so Mum would bring me to assessments, right? And I suppose we bring, like you bring your own children to assessments and stuff. But they were saying to Mum, oh, maybe she's deaf. I don't know, can she actually see? And Mum and Dad were like, she can. But it was because Mum said, as a baby, Mum thinks I decided not to trust people.
Yeah.
And she said that she thinks that I just went into my own bubble and decided to switch off, that I just felt, I didn't want to perform, if you know what I mean. So when Mum used to bring me to a lot of assessments, this is in the early days, I didn't want to perform. So if they were saying build this block or do this, do that, I wouldn't do it. And Mum and Dad were told then obviously that they were in denial. And Mum said one time to the doctor, she was like, look, she doesn't trust, and she'll only do these things with me. And Mum was like, how do you know? And Mum would be like, because if we were at home, she'd stand on a chair and she'd stir the pot with me. We'd be making soup or whatever, and she'd not a bother on her, and she'd be like, la 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 la, you know. And Mum was saying, like, he was like thinking Mum was just making this up.
Yeah.
So Mum was like, can I just sit her on my lap, and I promise you she'll do it. And he was like, no. So Mum said there was one day he was on holidays and there was a temp in, and my mum explained the situation. Lovely doctor, she's like, absolutely no problem. Mum said, you sat on my lap and you did every single thing she asked you to do.
Yeah.
And it was because I was sitting on my mum's lap and I felt safe.
You felt safe, and you weren't angry that you were asked to perform like a circus seal, you know.
No.
So there wasn't anything to protest about then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like my mum said, like my foster mum felt like, you know, she said like you had a lot of, say, like social workers would come to the house a lot. And back then they were quite intimidating back then, actually, right? Because they'd come in like with suits, so they'd be like real authority figures, do you know, like lawyers. So they come in like quite similar to lawyers with their briefcases. Wouldn't be like a proper briefcase, but I remember, from what I can remember, like they would come in and they'd plonk their case up on the table or whatever, like their bag. But I just remember it so well. And then they'd be like writing and asking you questions. And there was plenty of times like they would say, you just get used to social worker, and then they say that they're leaving, and then you're getting another one, and then the new social worker will come along and would ask you the same questions, and it used to drive me mad. And I'd be like, but I already told the other social worker this, and they'd be dragging up the past again, and they'd say, but we want to hear from your words. And my foster mum would be saying like, yeah, but like you can't keep dragging up the past for these children. You can't keep asking them these questions. It's not fair, like. Yeah. You know, and there's no such thing as privacy, I think, when you're fostered, because all these strangers know your business. You know, and I think like if you're going to be bringing up these children's past, you should be offering these children counselling, you should be offering them support, help. Do you know, because who do they think is going to pick up the pieces after they've left? Obviously the foster parents are going to, because they've stirred it all up again. Yeah.
So just say you're at home and there's a ring at the door. The social worker is there in their suit and their briefcase with all their files. Maybe the neighbourhood kids see, God, what's up there now? Is Sadie in trouble or something?
Yeah,
you know,
but it was like
that's how you described it to me before. And they come in, they sit down, and you must feel like you're being interrogated by them. And they're writing this down in a file. Who's looking at that file then of all your personal information, your thoughts, your intimate details? Who actually gets to read that file?
Well, I don't really know, but I'm sure they discuss it with their team leaders, social workers, team leaders, and they have a lot of meetings and stuff, and a lot of stuff is need to know basis, so you don't really know what they're actually saying.
Right. And have you access to that file, or have your foster parents access
Not
to
at
that,
the time.
those files?
You have to apply for them. So I applied when I was older to Freedom of Information.
How old were you then?
Probably in my 20s.
Right, okay.
Yeah, late 20s.
And when you got those files, what did you make of them?
4 massive big files. And they came in a big envelope, and opening them up I was like, oh my God. And for a minute I just kind of froze looking at these 4 massive big folders going, oh my God, this is my life. You know, but it wasn't like that program, this is your life, you know. It was just like but it was like, it was, I suppose, probably like that. There was no drum rolls or anything like that. I found it really overwhelming. One thing actually that I found really difficult was was definitely the school reports, but definitely my birth mother seemed to know a lot more than I knew.
About you?
Yeah. So social workers had gone to visit her a good few times. So she knew what was going on in my life, and I didn't know what was going on in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, I think, because remember I said the birth family, obviously they're very much involved, even though you might not see your birth parents, they still know everything about you. And it kind of makes me feel, is that actually fair on the foster child? Should we not know that they're knowing all this personal information? Because I remember meeting my birth mum years ago at a family wedding and chatting to her, and I remember her telling me, oh yeah, sure, you know, I knew you were self-harming, I knew you'd went through all this, I knew all this. You know, I was shocked. I was like, how does she know all this? And I knew nothing about her life.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even know the social worker had gone to visit her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
Can you tell me about your foster brother Gary? You grew up with him. He was in the house from when you arrived. He was already in.
Yeah.
Your home.
Yeah. So Gary had come from really difficult circumstances as well, and he was clearly like very troubled. And my mum, like foster mum, and dad were like trying to get all the right supports for him. His social worker, he didn't have a good relationship with his social worker, and either did mum and dad.
Mm-hmm.
She was actually quite, from what I have been told, quite unprofessional at times, and opinionated, and said stuff that she probably shouldn't have said, because when Gary was older, Gary applied for his files, and you know, looking at what was said in Gary's files, like there was one incident that happened when Gary was younger. His mum used to come to visit him. Now she only came once or twice, say, and when she came, she was having epileptic fits in front of Gary, and my foster mum had me and Kizzy, and she had Gary, and then she had her other two foster children, and she was saying she had said to the social worker, Gary's social worker, look, you know, I really welcome Gary's mum coming, but I need you to come, the social worker to come, or somebody to be there on the day, because if she's having fits, poor Gary is absolutely beside himself, and I have the twins crawling on the ground, so I need a little bit of support. So mum said that the visits just stopped, and Gary couldn't understand why his mum wasn't coming. And when Gary applied for his birth files, it said in it that my mum had said that she couldn't cope. She couldn't cope with the birth mother coming to the
Which
house.
was a completely inaccurate assessment of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was another incident that one of Gary's friends, they were moving abroad, and he was about the same age as Gary at the same time, say about 10. And his mother had lovely clothes, and she said to mum, would Gary like this bag of clothes because we're moving away? And mum said like they were lovely, they were all woolly jumpers and lovely stuff, like real expensive stuff. And apparently Gary was wearing them one day, and the social worker had questioned Gary, where did you get those clothes? And Gary had obviously said where he'd got them. But now there was no more said about it, but when Gary and mum were looking through the files, it said that my mum had Gary going around in second-hand clothes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, there was lots of incidents anyway, and Gary one day, I must have been about 6 at the time, and I was sitting on the floor, I had glasses on. Gary ran into the room, knocked my glasses to the floor, kind of knocked me to the floor, and the glasses fell down. Kizzy then runs in behind me, and Gary went to do the same thing because he was having a bit of a meltdown. And my mum put her hand out to grab Gary, but she accidentally kind of hit him. Yeah. But she said it was like a tap, she said it wasn't like a massive big slap. But she felt, oh gosh, you know, I'm going to have to obviously tell the social worker. So she rang the social worker straight after it happened, explained exactly what had happened, and she said, right, well, I'm going to have to report you. And my mum was like, okay, but I really didn't mean to, like it was an accident, I was just trying to put my hand out to protect the kids. And so anyway, there was kind of like an investigation. Mum was saying that a lot of the Gary's teacher, his therapist, everyone at the time, they were all like saying, you know, Gary's making amazing progress. Like he's doing really, really well. You know, he should stay with Mum and Dad. So Mum thought he was going to stay with us. And I remember one day we were all at home. Me and Kizzy were just doing our usual thing, pattering around, playing. And I was coming up to about 7 years of age and knocking the door. Loads of commotion, screaming, shouting. Police came in and they removed Gary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How old was Gary?
Gary, I'm not sure. I think he could have been about 12 maybe.
Did your mother know that was
No.
going to happen? She hadn't been warned at all?
No, and it was all because, and I wouldn't mind, I'm pretty sure that could have been like nearly a year after that happened, or 6 or 7 like months. It wasn't like there and then. So like, if he was in danger, like what danger was he in to that day, to 6 months or whatever it was?
But do you think it was from that report,
Oh, no, it was.
that the way that
Oh,
had
yeah.
been reported completely inaccurately and over the
Yeah.
top, even though everybody else in authority in his life, like the schools and everything, were reporting that he's doing really well,
Yeah.
were recommended he stay in that foster placement because he's starting to thrive. So despite all of that evidence,
Yeah.
because of one incident, a year later they've removed him.
Yeah, now I could be wrong on the timeline, but
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
definitely like investigation. So it wasn't like that, oh God, he's in danger, let's remove him today because he's in danger, you know?
Yeah, they knew he wasn't in danger if
Absolutely,
they
yeah.
left him there.
Yeah.
So where did they bring him to then at 12 years of age?
They brought him to another foster home.
Right.
But just to go back to that, just the point that I wanted to make there was like, me and Kizzy saw that, we witnessed that.
Gosh, was he almost dragged kicking and
Yeah.
screaming from the house?
And I could see Mum and Dad were like so upset and they were like trying to calm him down.
That's
And-
traumatic.
Yeah, but when you think what me and Kizzy went through, like we were taken off our we were taken off our birth parents
Yeah.
and removed. And they, without a thought for any of us, without a thought for the twins or Mum and Dad's foster children or Gary, like just dramatically come in and do this. And there wasn't a thought.
Yeah, so bad enough that they were doing it in the first place, but to do it while you're witnessing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and so neighbours...
There was no arrangement made for you not to be
arrangements.
there.
All I remember was that neighbours must have heard the commotion. And my foster sister at the time was older, and I remember she picked me up and put me. We had a small wall into the neighbour's garden, so she picked me up and put me in. The neighbour picked me up, and Casey climbed in, and we all went in next door, and we sat there for hours, not knowing what was happening. And then I remember my foster dad coming in, and the reason why I know I was about 7 at the time, because my foster dad came in that evening and said, "Okay," with my bag, and I was like, "Where am I going, Dad?" He goes, "You're going in to get your eye operation." So that night, my dad, I'd say my mum must have been in an awful state. And my dad went in to the hospital with me to get my eye operation. He stayed with me all night, my foster dad. Do you know, and that's like, that's love.
Yeah.
That's real love, like.
Yeah, yeah.
Where he could have like cancelled that appointment, and Mum and Dad, and they were like, "No, she's getting her eye operation, you know, life goes on, let's just sail through."
So what effect did that have on you as a foster
Huge.
child, seeing a child can be removed without warning from your
huge.
home?
Absolute huge. Me and Kizzy we were really traumatised over that, and we were always thinking, was it going to be us? Oh God, like that never went away. And like I used to get these recurrent dreams that the front door was open, and say I'd wake up, and I would actually wake up after the dream, and I'd run downstairs, and my dad, I'd hear my foster dad, because he used to actually, because Mum would be like, "No, John, you're not having your you have to watch your salt, like, in his diet." So my dad would always like sneak in a packet of Perry crisps. And my dad would be sitting there watching his cowboy films, eating the Perry crisps. So like I'd run downstairs, like, and I'd be like, "Dad, Dad, Dad," and he'd come out going, "The door is locked, for God's sake, it's locked, relax." But this, and then sometimes I just run downstairs and sit in his lap to eat his Perry crisps.
But you could only do it once you knew that the door was locked.
Yeah, but I still get those dreams. I and I still live with that, like, oh, it can't be too perfect, something's about to happen, something's going to happen, that uneasiness. But I don't think I ever properly felt secure.
No, I mean, it's not a leap to think if they can do that to Gary, they can do that to me and Kizzy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talk to me about access visits. What were they like?
Yeah, they the family.
What is an access visit?
Okay, so an access visit, what they call is family access. So it depends on the agreement. So some children, like, you can, it depends where, like, I know for us, like, I remember, like, say my first family access visit that I can remember, right, as a small child, was the HSE building in Ballymun somewhere. And I remember going to see my birth mother, and I remember, all I actually remember is these big steps, because I remember the high heel side of it. And Mum was saying, right, that I was only would have been about 2 or 3, I think. And I remember, like, the high heels, I remember, like, this big table, I remember seeing, like, puff smoke, like cigarette smoke, at eye level, and I remember seeing high heels under the table. So maybe my head was down, and then I just remembered the sound of the high heels. And I remember seeing loads of toys. And then I think after a while we used to still go to the HSE buildings to see our brothers and sisters, and that wasn't working for my birth siblings or me or kids, because it's traumatic. Who wants to go into a HSE building?
To meet their siblings.
Yeah.
It sounds like an unnatural environment.
Yeah, it really is. Like, because, do you know what, you're like sitting at a table or sitting around playing and people watching you.
How many other people are in the room?
I don't know, I think it's like your birth family and, like, there's a social worker, I think. I think back then, like, I don't know, it might be different now, but I'm pretty sure maybe Mum and Dad could have been there, but I just know it wasn't a nice feeling.
You must have felt really self-conscious because you're meeting siblings that you don't know as well as siblings that you grow up with. So you're going to be nervous coming in anyway, and then there's these adults that you don't know in suits watching you.
Yeah.
That sounds very strange.
And the last 10-15 minutes is horrible because you're having to say goodbye. It's awful because you don't know when you're going to see them again, or, you know, it's just like you're all hugging each other. Like, it's quite emotional.
Yeah.
And do you know the best way I can describe to you how I felt? I feel like I spend a lot of my time grieving. A lot of time, you know, grieving for my brothers and sisters that I couldn't see, my birth parents, grieving for the life that I should have had, and why couldn't I have that life? You know, when you have that, like, you know, not understanding, like, you don't understand why everybody else gets to have their mum and dad and why you're just looking in a glass window.
Yeah.
Do you know, and I think you do turn that on yourself because you do think, is it my fault? Mm-hmm. What did I do? Like, why can I not see my brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Do you know, and I think, like, if you're not getting the right supports, do you know, and I think, like, all the stuff that I went through, especially with Gary, all of that, and still not getting counselling. Like, I know I had, now in saying that, I know I had some school counselling. But they all said, like, obviously this was totally over their head. Like, they all said that I needed proper support, proper therapy. You know, that they were just school counsellors. Yeah.
More looking at the learning environment and maybe the learning difficulties rather than the psychological issues, do you think?
Yeah. But when you think now, looking back, I think, gosh, you know, I had, like, so much going on, like, and I was so hard on myself, Mairead. You just think, I think back that little girl and, you know, what I was doing to survive. Yeah. I had to go so deep into myself.
Yeah.
To survive.
Yeah. I really admire you for the person that you are now today, because if you think of the little girl who arrived, the 9-month-old who arrived at your foster home, who was afraid of, couldn't even be hugged, had to be held in a certain way. If you think of that 9-month-old then and the woman that you are now, you're in a wonderful marriage with a very supportive husband called Mossy, his name. You have children of your own, and you've even been a foster mother yourself. You help children through your job as an
Yeah.
SNA. And now, despite the fact that you're most likely a dyslexic, you have written your own book. You've written your own book. It's called The Hidden World of a Foster Girl by Sadie Harper. And you've self-published. And I've seen you on social media. You are working your ass off going out there trying to promote and sell that book. I think you even have it for sale in a butcher's. Did I see somewhere in some butcher?
Yeah.
If somebody wants to buy
Butchers.
tell me all the places. If somebody wants to buy your book, Sadie, where can they?
Yeah,
where can
it
they
is.
get
She's
it?
right. Carnew Butchers, Kelly's.
Carnew Butchers in County Wexford. Yeah, yeah.
It's also in. If you want to order actually online, you can order from Books Upstairs,
Okay.
Dublin 2.
Books Upstairs, Dublin 2. Okay.
Now it's only available in Eason's in Gorey.
Mm-hmm. That's where I got my copy, and it was a signed copy.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I do my best to try and get them signed.
Signed, yeah.
Eason's in Wexford Town.
Yeah.
Eason's in Enniscorthy.
Mm-hmm.
In New Ross, it's available in Hub 16.
Yeah.
New Ross. The Book Centre in Wexford Town and Waterford.
Okay.
Maynooth Bookshop in Dublin.
Okay.
Wicklow, it's available in Bridge Street Bookshop in Wicklow Town.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. Red Books, Gorey, Red Books, Wexford. River Chapel, Brooks in River Chapel, Brooks in Ballycanoe.
Oh, so are Brooks like a
News
it's
agents.
like a super? Oh, it's a news agents. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like everyone's been amazing. Like saying here, if you want to sell them here, even Inner Beauty Salon in Gorey Town, Maureen's shop in Gorey, that's just beside the post office, and Daybreak in Gorey as well. And in Dublin, Martin and Ed's sweet shop in Maguire's in Deer Park, and Hampton's bookshop in Donnybrook.
That sounds brilliant. That's so many places, and they can always just Google you, Sadie Harper. You've got a Facebook page.
Yes. What is it again? The Hidden World of a Foster Girl Facebook page. And
Oh, this Facebook page for the book. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my friends is designing a page for me as well, so it will be under Sadie Harper as well.
Yeah.
And just to say there, if you don't mind me just saying there quickly, so yeah, I am dyslexic, so I didn't write my book. I had to go and get a ghostwriter, Jackie Hayden from Hot Press magazine. He's been amazing. So he actually wrote the book for me. But I always tried to keep like little diaries and poems and things like that. So we worked together to do that. And I when I moved down to Gorey, I really struggled with the reading and writing. So to go to college, I went to the VEC in Gorey. Sheila, she was amazing, Sheila Ferris. And I asked her for the support because I was like, I'm not going to be able to go to college if I don't have help. So there was always help out for people. And she looked into everything and helped me with college assignments, as well as my mum and dad helped me as well. My mum really helped me. But there's always help and there's always support. Just don't be afraid to ask.
Great. That sounds brilliant. And so can you give some advice for if there is somebody right now who's considering fostering a child? Have you any advice for them?
Do you know what? It's like, it's an amazing thing to do, like absolutely amazing thing to do. And I think if you're in that position to do it, it's amazing. But you do need to like take in mind, like you're not there to fix a child. You can't fix a child. You're there obviously to offer them a safe environment to be their self. And I suppose you just have to kind of be aware that, you know, that their birth family probably will be involved. Social workers will be involved. You know, social workers will be your legal guardian and stuff like that, you know, so it is very tough and it's a roller coaster and all of that, but it is very rewarding as well to be able to give that person the unconditional love and all the love that you can. You know, it's amazing, like, but it's a hard job. Like, don't go in with your eyes closed, you know, because it is a life changing. And it's such a commitment. Like, I think you really have to be able to be there to give that child, you know, as much attention as you can. You know.
Okay, and what's your advice for social workers working in the system right now?
I feel like, you really do need to listen to, like, I know it's a hard job, and I know I have a lot of respect for social workers, but I really think, like, there needs to be more listening to the children, listening to the foster parents. The foster parents are the ones that do all the groundwork, and obviously I honestly think that foster parents, if the placement is going really well, they should be allowed to have more rights. Like, how can children feel secure? And, like, you're always told by the social workers, treat the child the same way as you treat your own child, your own birth child. But anybody that will tell you that is a foster parent, that is not the case. How can you treat the foster child the same as your own birth siblings if you're not allowed to do the same things? Foster mother told me there recently she has her child 7 months, haircut at Christmas time. The child was pleading to get her haircut, only wanted it trimmed, and the foster mother was told no, because they had to get permission off the birth mother, and the birth mother said no, and the social worker, he wouldn't go over the head of the birth mother. So she said it was awful because she had to bring her own birth child to get her haircut. So there should be the same rights. Like, there's, there shouldn't be one rail for the birth child and other for, because how can you make your, like, of course it's going to cause anger. Like, of course your child, because I saw that when I was a foster mother, that stood out a mile for me. It used to cause some rows in the house because I'm saying one thing to my children and I have to say no. And already you're getting that child's back up. That's not fair. I hate this house. I hate social workers. Because then they feel that anger at their birth parents and the social worker because they're not allowed to do the same things. So already that's causing, like, unwanted anger for no reason. Mm-hmm. And this is a huge thing, and the whole system needs to be looked at. Like, the whole HSE has to go. And I don't mean just put a new label on it. It needs to be really looked at, and it needs to be looked at from everybody that looks after children. Everybody, foster parents, attachment specialists, everyone.
Okay.
But the way with the government and politics, it's one thing I can't understand is that like we're always trying to make a better government, better everything. We're always working for change. And all these debates and stuff, I just can't understand why children in foster care, why we can't do the same. Why can't we not talk about how to change the system, or what works, what doesn't work? Let's have these debates, let's trash it out, let's talk to people. I just can't understand why we don't do that. What policies work, what doesn't work? Well, this worked for me, this didn't work, let's talk about it. But why that hasn't happened, why it doesn't happen.
Well, thank God that you are you're opening the conversation. You've been very vulnerable and open in your book, sharing your experience.
Yeah,
so
and
well done you.
I'm no expert in any means, but I'm just coming from my experience.
Absolutely, and that's a really big and brave thing to do. And I believe later today you're going to be talking to some foster parents as well. Yeah. So you're talking about the issues, you're talking about your experience. So I really commend you for that, Sadie.
Thank you.
And then lastly, can you give, if there's any foster children listening, or any young people who are going through a really tough time, you know what it's like to be a young person going through a really tough time. Have you got any advice for them?
Yeah, do you know what? I know you probably feel like you're alone, but remember there's always someone out there that's happy that you're alive. And always remember that. And do whatever you have to do to survive, even if you have to click off. What I used to do is tap all the doors and click off light switches about 10 times a day. But whatever you have to do, just be yourself. And I think writing is great, even if you can just put a few things down on paper, how you feel. But try and talk to someone and just hold in there, because there's always somebody out there that loves you. And when you're alone, you feel like nobody loves you. Like, it's like being in a shopping centre and feeling so alone, but love yourself. That's all you can do, is just give yourself a big hug, self-soothe yourself. And that was one thing I never learned to do, is say, like, I'm okay, Sadie, yeah. Just reassure yourself.
Sadie Harper, you are brilliant. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.